Hi all, and welcome to another build guide. This is Luke, and in this guide I'll step you through how I build some HO scale chain link fence using everyday materials, just like the ones you're looking at. First off, we need to gather the materials. For the chain links I use nylon tulle, which is available from most fabric stores, and you want to find the one that has the smallest holes. It's similar to the netting they use for wedding veils and things like that. I use 18 gauge wire for the frame of the fence, and finally, to weather it, I give it a light coat of spray paint. Here is a complete list of the tools and materials I used. If you need more time, you can pause the video and take some notes. And step 1 is to prepare the wire. Unfortunately, the wire I got was all coiled up, so I had to do my best to straighten it. I then cut small lengths depending on where it goes. The upright bars are 3 centimeters long and the crossbars are 5.5 centimeters long. I use the file to square up the ends and remove the burr from where the wire was cut. With all the bars cut and filed, I do my best to match the longer crossbars in pairs of equal length. Depending on how accurate you are when you cut them, some of the bars will be longer or shorter. If you want, you could file them all to be perfect. On the plywood, I draw a guide to help me lay the crossbars straight. Then using the guide, I place all the parts down, ready to be soldered. I use blue tack to hold the pieces in place, and then I fine-tune the position of each piece. I prefer using blue tack as opposed to masking tape because it's much easier to make fine adjustments to the position of each piece after you've laid them. A bit of flux helps solder make a good bond, and then it's as simple as applying solder to each joint. Depending on how good you are at soldering, you may need to file down some of the joints to remove large blobs of solder. And as you can see, obviously I could do with a bit of practice. If a joint breaks or cracks, it's pretty easy to fix. Just anchor it down again with blue tack and resolder. Next, get some nylon tulle and cut a small piece large enough to cover the fence framework. To fix the nylon tulle to the wire frame, I use super glue, and I only need to put a small amount of glue around the framework of the fence. I do my best to get the nylon nice and flat on the plywood, and then I position the framework of the fence over the top and drop it on. This step may not be needed, but I weigh down the wire frame using a piece of off-cut plywood and some weights, and then I leave it for a few minutes. Depending on how much super glue you applied will determine how easy it is to lift the fence away from the plywood. I actually applied probably a little bit too much, but I'm still able to pry the fence away without damaging it. Using a sharp hobby knife, I then cut away any excess nylon from around the fence. And I can see some areas of nylon that didn't stick very well, so on those areas I just touch up with some extra super glue. And that's it. Some of you may be happy with this result. Gives a new shiny looking fence, but I prefer a darker, more weathered look, so I'm going to finish it with a light coat of paint. It only needs to be a very light coat of paint because you want to avoid paint filling in the small holes in the nylon. Once both sides are sprayed, I prop it up off the plywood to prevent the nylon from sticking to it as the paint dries. And if that was to happen, it would make it quite difficult to pull the fence away from the plywood without damaging the nylon. An interesting thing happens after the nylon is sprayed. As the paint dries, it shrinks and tightens the nylon, and the end result is a nice taut fence that gives a good realistic result when placed on the layout. By setting the line posts further apart than what would be prototypical, we get an illusion of the fence looking a little more realistic and the materials blending into the scene a little better. When the line posts are close together, it makes the whole fence look a little bit oversized, but it's totally up to you how far you space the posts. You can experiment and see what you like best. Anyway, that finishes off the guide for building a HO scale chain link fence. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the build. If you want to see more like this, just leave a comment and let me know. Cheers.